Okay, as promised, we are going to be using these lab groups this week. With the possible exception of testing is coming in. We got the IRT, ART, IRF. I forget what the acronym is. We got the state standardized testing this week. Used to be PARC. Now it's something else. It is required by the state of Illinois, their superintendent's office, state superintendent's office, that we go ahead and get that done. So we're going to be doing that Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of this week. Please make sure that you're getting good night's rest, that you're getting proper breakfast on those days. Eat something, even if it's just a glass of milk or a cup of orange juice. But please do try to do your best on these tests. They make a difference. I know that they are frustrating to have these tests that often, but that's my soapbox for today. Do in fact try to do your best. Our teaching point, our objective for today: I can communicate with my teammates. I can investigate materials like a material scientist, and I can use evidence from an investigation to describe the properties of materials. So we're going to be hopefully getting through a couple of different items on a lab report today, trying to test different materials and how they might work out. We're going to start off looking at a video from the Museum of Science and Industry, so actually taking a quick field trip down to MSI Chicago. Ms. Wellner will be our tour guide for that field trip, and so we're going to go ahead and follow along with that. Learn about different properties of some different amorphous metals, get a concept of what amorphous metals actually mean, and then we are going to actually, instead of using metals, because we're in the school science lab, we're going to be using some different kitchen items to try to test their properties as they may relate to that, and then related to not just the kitchen materials that we're using, we're also going to look at some different household materials. I'm going to call them, because this is what they are at my house, the basement materials, sporting goods. We're going to take a look at some sporting goods to try to figure out how they react with those household materials. So one key point I do want to point out, since we are using some lab materials today, we need to make sure we are keeping safety in mind. If lab materials are on your table, they stay on your table. If we rotate tables, lab materials stay on the table. You don't take them with you to the next table. We are going to be using some assorted sporting balls today, so we don't take a tennis ball or a golf ball or a softball and throw it across the room and try to hit somebody else with it. Anything like that is happening, it's going to be an immediate referral. It's going to be an immediate stop of the lab. So please don't ruin it for everybody else because you think that you're funny. So lab materials need to stay on the table and need to be used appropriately according to the directions. First thing, as we learned yesterday, we're going to read through all the directions, make sure we know what we're doing with the lab before we jump in and think we know what we're doing. And then we're going to be answering the questions at the end as we are guided to do those. So there's going to be 2 sections available for today's lab. It is not just do both sections as quickly as you can. We want to take this seriously, be actually using these materials appropriately, because it's going to apply to some of the skills we're using later in the week. It's doing section 1 and the questions associated with it, and if there's time, then doing section 2 and the questions associated with that. We're also going to be using some lab roles. So we're going to get the manage mats out. You guys are familiar with the manage mats. They look like this. So manage mats are going to be coming out again with the manage mats. These are not toys either. We don't spin them around on the table. We don't use them as fans. We don't chuck them like a frisbee. They sit flat on the table nicely, where shoulder partner is the person next to us and face partner is the person across from us. So that is our reminders of how to appropriately use lab materials and appropriately use our manage mats. So let's go ahead and get started, take our field trip down to the Museum of Science and Industry so that we can understand a little better what we're actually going to be doing in today's lab activity. Thank you so much. Happy Tuesday.